Hi, welcome to the Brief Book Reviews channel, otherwise known as An Old Guy Reviews the book that he's read this week. So what's the old guy read this week? Well, the book I've read this week is this one. It's called Other People's Houses by author Clare Mackintosh. It was released as a hardback edition here in the UK on the 27th of February 2025 by Sphere, and it helpfully tells us on the front of the book this is a DC Ffion Morgan thriller. It's the third Ffion Morgan book. The first one was called The Last Party, which I reviewed here on the channel, and the second one was called The Game of Lies. So this is the third adventure for our Ffion, known in the youth as Wild Ffion. So what's Ffion up to in this one? Well, book kicks off with Ffion up in Cwm Coed, where she lives. She's living in rented accommodation with her dog Dave, who's a mongrel of indiscriminate breed, but she's quite happy. She's in a relationship with a guy called DS Leo Brady, who's another police officer, but Leo lives the other side of the Dragon Lake in Cheshire, whereas Ffion's in Cwm Coed in North Wales. But Ffion's about to move. She's in rented accommodation, and the landlord wants to sell the place she's in because he can make more money by renting it out as a holiday let. She's a bit worried because she hasn't heard from either the estate agent or a solicitor, and she's got to be out of her current place in a couple of weeks. And if that for any reason falls through, she's going to end up living back with her mum again. And her daughter Seren is about to go off to university, but frankly, that's not what she wants. Her boyfriend, her partner Leo, who lives in Cheshire, says, well, maybe we could get together. And she wants to be nearer to her mum, and also Leo's got his own issues. He's divorced. His ex-wife Ali is now married to a bloke, Dominic, and she lives in Cheshire with Leo's son, Harris. So Leo spends his time between his home in Cheshire and spending time in Cwm Coed with Ffion. So a lot going on, but Ffion and Leo are in a steady relationship and getting on well together. I guess a little bit of opposites attract, but that's how we start off with the case. So we've already got some instance of an estate agent being involved, and all of a sudden the case pops up for Ffion in Cwm Coed. Turns out a party of estate agents were up for a weekend break, and one of them has been found dead in the river in a kayak. It's initially assumed that this is just a boating accident, but it soon becomes apparent that this is a murder. So Ffion is tasked with leading the investigation into the murder of the murdered estate agent, a lady called Natasha. There is a lot of humour in this book, and it's noticeable that Clare Mackintosh managed to get the old estate agent joke in early. Ffion is interviewing some of there are 4 estate agents on the holiday. One's been murdered. She's interviewed the other 3, and she says to her partner, one of her colleagues, she says, "They're lying. I know they're lying." And the colleague says, "How do you know they're lying?" She says, "Well, they're estate agents and their lips are moving." Boom. So the old estate agent joke got in there. So just one of the many bits of humour in this book. So case number 1 for Ffion. Over the other side of Dragon Lake in Cheshire, their partner Leo has got another problem. He's investigating a series of break-ins in a place called The Hill. Now, The Hill is, a sort of place where very wealthy people move just because of the postcode. All the houses are individually named, and it's in a very well-off area of rural Cheshire. But the thing that Leo can't get his head round is that there've been a couple of burglaries already, and all the stuff that's been taken seems really trivial. It's almost as if the burglar or burglars are looking for something specific, and he can't quite get his head round what's happening. To make matters worse, that this area called The Hill, with all the posh houses, at the bottom of the hill, with the road running at the end of it, is where his ex-wife Ali lives. And Ali is trying to ingratiate herself with the wealthy people on the hill, and doing a bit of social climbing. So that's a complication for Leo investigating the case. So we've got two cases. We've got Ffion and the murder estate agent. We've got Leo and a number of burglaries taking place. And there's a third case as well. There was a murder of two people called Peter and Stephanie Carmichael who lived on the hill a while back, and it's a cold case in Cheshire. But a podcast, and where would we be without modern day podcasts, called Without Conviction, are highlighting the fact that the guy that was originally banged up for the crime has died, but he's been exonerated. So the real murderer is still out there. So we've got three cases here. And I don't think it's giving too much away to say that clearly, as Ffion does her work, as Leo does his work, there are strands that appear to point to some connections between the two cases. So it's really good, twisty thriller. We don't know who the perp is until the end, because what happens is that we've got a murdered estate agent, but also over on the hill, we've gone from burglaries where people are getting attacked, and it's escalating. There's clearly somebody with an imperative here to either find something or someone. And as the book progresses, we find that a lot of the people who are posh and well-off people on the hill have secrets, and some of those are secrets about their jobs, their net worth. Some have got secrets about their actual identity, and they're not who they are, who seem to be. So, really good twisty thriller, lots of humour, including the bit where Ffion goes to Starbucks and she's waiting ages for a coffee, and she finds it's actually on the counter marked Ian. Such is life. But a good thriller. For those that like the hardback version, their hardback versions, book in the hand. If you take the leaf off, it says, "Even the most desirable street." On the back, on the front, and on the back, we have "There's a dark side." While I'm pulling the book together and making an ass of myself, I'll also point out that, as with the last party, there was a nice little diagram. We also have a diagram of the hill with the houses and the people that live there. So there's lots of moving parts here. There's lots of people. Oh, that's a good start. Spilt me tea. Lots of people involved, and it's a well-written book. Really enjoyed it. So, we have the character of Ffion and Leo. Ffion has a tendency to go off-piste a bit. She's not, but Leo is steadier, but you see their relationship develop, and it's that relationship is very well written. So, well written thriller. Don't know who the perp is until right near the end, and right at the very end there's a little twist, which means that the next time we see Ffion, then she's going to have a different set of pressures and challenges ahead. So, well worth a read. As I said, good gripping thriller, lots of humour. What's not to like? It's 382 pages. I read it in two settings, and people often use that term, gripping thriller, and I found that this was. I wanted to know what was going on, and apart from the two main cases, you've got this cold case in the background, and you see the problems that modern true crime podcasts can cause, but also that in some cases they can be helpful as well. And it's getting that balance right, I guess. If you're a serving police officer, they're a pain, but this is the world we live in nowadays. So, good read, 7 out of 10. Another cracking effort by Clare Mackintosh. Really enjoyed it. I think that's it for this week's brief book review. As I said, good thriller, good characters, well worth a read. 10/10 till we do it again. Thanks for watching. Bye.